Have you ever wondered why the scriptures say Jesus was in the grave for 3 days, not just a few hours, not just one night, but 3 whole days? Why 3? Why not 2 or 5? And more importantly, what was really happening during that time? The day Jesus was crucified, the world went silent. His followers were scattered, hope seemed lost, and darkness covered the land. For many, that was the end of the story. But it wasn't, because something was happening, something unseen, something powerful during those 3 days. Some say he descended to hell, not as a prisoner, but as a victor, not to suffer, but to proclaim. And yet, was it truly hell? Or was it the realm of the dead, the place where souls awaited the day of judgment? Here is where Scripture becomes layered, and where mystery begins. In those 3 days, Jesus' body rested in the tomb, but his soul was not silent. The early followers believed he went to the depths to proclaim the truth to those who had died before his time. Imagine the great prophets of old, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and countless others who had awaited the fulfillment of God's promise. Imagine the moment they heard the voice of the Messiah, declaring that the plan was complete. But then comes the question, why 3 days? In the ancient Jewish understanding, a person was considered truly dead after 3 days. 1 or 2 days could still leave room for doubt. But 3 days? That meant death was certain. So when Jesus rose on the 3rd day, there was no question. Life had conquered death. And yet, the hell he entered was not the lake of fire described in Revelation, but the waiting place, known in Hebrew as Sheol. A place where the righteous and the wicked were separated, each awaiting God's final judgment. It was there, according to some interpretations, that Jesus proclaimed the truth, that God's promise had come to pass. These 3 days also carried deep symbolism. Day 1, the day of loss, when hope seems gone. Day 2, the day of silence, when God feels far away. Day 3, the day of victory, when God's power is revealed. In our own lives, we all have these 3 days, times of trial, waiting, and deliverance. And here's the most important part. Jesus' mission, even in those unseen hours, was one of mercy, truth, and fulfillment of God's will. He wasn't there to be defeated. He was there to declare that death itself had limits, and that God's promise stands forever. If you've ever felt like you're in your own second day, stuck in the silence between loss and victory, remember this. God works even when we cannot see. The story isn't over, and the 3rd day always comes. Continuing the mystery of the 3 days. You may have heard the phrase from the Apostles' Creed, "He descended into hell." But what does that truly mean? Sheol, a realm of waiting, not punishment. In the Hebrew Scriptures, the term Sheol refers to the realm of the dead, a shadowy, silent place beneath the earth, where both the righteous and unrighteous reside, awaiting God's final judgment. It was not a place of eternal torment, but a waiting place, like a silent holding area for the departed. Some passages describe it as dim and dusty, a place where souls dwell in stillness. Jesus' descent, a proclamation of victory. The New Testament alludes to this descent. In 1 Peter 3:18-19, it's written that Jesus, after being made alive in the Spirit, went and proclaimed to the spirits in prison, not demons, but human souls waiting in that realm, now hearing the message of redemption. In Ephesians 4:9, Paul refers to Jesus descending into the lower parts of the earth, a phrase traditionally associated with such an underworld. The harrowing of hell. Triumph, not suffering. Christian tradition names this event the harrowing of hell, a triumphant descent, not defeat. It implies liberation. Jesus came not to suffer, but to break chains that bound the dead, bringing hope and salvation. Why 3 days? The power of symbolism. The 3 days weren't arbitrary. In Jewish tradition, a body was truly considered dead after 3 days. No breath, no sign of life. Thus, Jesus' body being in the tomb for 3 days emphasized the reality of his death and the authenticity of his resurrection. It also fulfilled the prophetic pattern of Jonah, who spent 3 days in the fish's belly before being raised to new life. Jesus said he would mirror that pattern, going down into the heart of the earth only to rise again. Prophetic fulfillment, Psalm and prophecy. David prophesied in Psalm 16:10, "You will not abandon my soul to Sheol, nor let your Holy One see corruption." Peter, quoting this psalm in Acts, affirms it refers to the Messiah. Thus, the descent was not meaningless. It was part of God's plan to conquer death from within. What this means for you and me. Imagine facing your own grave, lack of hope, silence, grief. Those are our personal days in Sheol. But just like Jesus, rescue is on its way. The first day is the fall, when hope seems gone. The second day is the silence, when God feels far. The third day is the rise, when resurrection comes. Your waiting does not nullify the promise. Closing reflection. So why was Jesus in hell for 3 days? Not as a victim, not as one defeated, but as a conqueror, descending to darkness so he could rise as light. He walked through the realm of the dead to show that death does not have the final say. Invitation to dive deeper. If you're wondering, what exactly did Jesus proclaim there? What does it mean that captivity was led captive? Ephesians 4:8. Why does this matter for everyone who believes? All of that, and more, is waiting for you in the full video on my channel. Head there now and see how those 3 days redefine meaning from the grave to glory. But let's go even deeper. Why 3 days? Why not 1? Why not immediately rise? Because in God's wisdom, every moment had purpose. On the first day, the shock was fresh. The disciples hid in fear. The women wept. The city whispered. The enemy thought it had won. Yet in the unseen realm, God's plan was advancing. On the second day, hope seemed gone. It was the Sabbath, a day of rest. But the hearts of the faithful were restless. They remembered his words, but they could not yet see their meaning. Sometimes, God's greatest work happens in silence, when you feel like nothing is changing. But heaven is setting the stage for your breakthrough. Then came the third day. The stone was rolled away, the tomb was empty, and the world would never be the same. This is not just a story from the past. It's a living reminder for you that your darkest nights can turn into the brightest mornings. The 3 days in your life might be 3 hours, 3 months, or even 3 years. But if you trust him, the victory will come. And think about this. If the message of those 3 days stayed hidden, how would the world have known the hope of the resurrection? The early believers didn't keep it to themselves. They shared it, in homes, in marketplaces, across nations. And because they shared, the truth spread to the ends of the earth. Now it's our turn. Right now, you might be the link in someone's chain to salvation. One share, one click, one word could reach someone on the edge of giving up. I'm asking you from the heart, Don't just watch this and move on. Like this video if it spoke to you. Subscribe so you don't miss the deeper teachings we have coming. And most importantly, share it. Share it with your family. Share it with your friends. Post it in your groups. Because sharing truth is not just about views. It's about planting seeds in hearts. And when you share something that leads someone to hope, that good deed echoes into eternity. So be the reason someone hears this message today. You never know. Your share might be the very thing God uses to change their life. And maybe you're thinking, will my share really matter? I'm just one person. But remember, the entire message of Jesus began with just a few people in a small part of the world. They didn't have YouTube. They didn't have microphones. They didn't have the internet. All they had was the truth and the courage to speak it. And because they didn't stay silent, today billions know his name. Maybe your share won't reach 1 billion, but what if it reaches one? One soul, one heart, one broken person, and that person finds peace because of you. In the 3 days Jesus was gone, many thought his mission was over. But in reality, it was just beginning. Sometimes, the moment you think is your ending is actually the start of something eternal. And I want you to hear this. We live in a time where darkness spreads fast. Lies go viral in minutes. Hate is shared more than love. But you can be different. You can be the one who lets truth travel faster than lies. When you share this, you're doing more than helping a channel grow. You're standing for light in a world that often feels dark. You're saying, I choose hope over despair, truth over confusion,